Hello, welcome to natemareflix. I am Nate, you are you, and the new Wrong Turn film is really generating some buzz and debate within the horror community because it is such a wide departure from the original vision of the Wrong Turn franchise, and it really has people scratching their heads trying to figure out which is the superior film. If you go over to letterboxd.com right now, you'll see the original boasts a 2.8 out of 5 rating, whereas the new film is at a 2.7 out of 5, so there's just a 0.1 difference. It is neck and neck with a lot of time still left to determine which film is superior. But today we're going to go ahead and try to get to the bottom of that very debate. We're going to pit these two films against each other in a good old-fashioned movie fight that will span 5 rounds. Round 1, we'll try to determine which movie has the better kills. Round 2, which movie has the better killers. Round 3, which set of protagonists is superior. Round 4, which film looks better, has the best cinematography. And then round 5, which film has a better potential to generate impact going forward. So there you have it. Those are the 5 war zones in which this battle will be waged. Who you got? Be sure to comment below. But here we go. Round 1 is kills, and that's because really you gotta start with kills when looking at the Wrong Turn franchise. That is what it is predicated upon. This is a throwback type of franchise that is just down and dirty and wants to give you some mean carnage candy, and the first film definitely delivers on that promise. The standout kill for me is the axe kill of Emmanuelle Chrique, to where she takes the axe to the center of her face. The rest of her body goes crashing through the canopy of the trees below, and then when the axe is removed, then finally the rest of her cranium follows suit and falls down into the woods. It's an awesome kill. It comes out of nowhere. It's surprising. It's just really well thought up. It's creative, and it's been imitated since a few different times in other horror movies. They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, so be flattered. Filmmakers behind Wrong Turn, you set out to give us a nice slasher with some good gory kills, and people took notice. But all that being said, this first opening round point will be awarded to the new Wrong Turn film because I just find the kills to be a little bit more creative, and it makes the entire atmosphere bolstered because it seems like there is some sort of lethal threat behind every corner. There are pits that people are stumbling into or being pulled into via a chain. People are just landing on spikes and being left there to die, knowing what their ultimate fate is and that they can't pull themselves off of those sticks. That is a type of psychological terror. And then you have stuff like a giant log coming down a hill and just smashing a guy's head up against a tree. And when they find his remains, his head has been turned into like a pumpkin smashed on the front porch steps on Halloween night. That's what it looks like, as his head has just been busted open and you're seeing the insides. There's carnage candy galore in this film. The setups are creative and their killers just come off as very capable, and the results are so good that it really makes you feel like the filmmakers went and studied their Tom Savini textbooks. So that is why the opening round is going to the new Wrong Turn. Round 2 is about the killers who are doing the killing, and we'll start with the new Wrong Turn here. So what's great about them is we talked about their resourcefulness, the fact that they definitely have a home field advantage, and their disguises are really quite something. The way that they camouflage into their surrounding. One guy has like a tree suit, like he's going all I am Groot on us. The rest are in ghillie suits with different animal skulls on them, and it's an intense look. There would definitely be some intimidation factor if you were to come across them in the woods, but if I gotta take anything away from them, it's that because they're all dressed like that and everybody's face is hidden for the most part, nobody really stands out. And even when we do get the guy who's kind of the ruler of this settlement, he's just, he's kind of run-of-the-mill horror villain. Like, yeah, he's got this code he lives by, and they have this little society that's doing some things. There's some murkiness on what are they right about, what are we right about, who's wrong with this, who's wrong with that. And that's interesting, sure, but I can't tell you anybody's name who's a part of this little civilization. And so it's just not as memorable as the killers in the first Wrong Turn. When you think about Three Fingers and his family, these inbred, crazy, wild mountain men who just want to kill anybody who comes onto their turf. They have this bloodlust, and their prosthetics are amazingly done. That's one of the strong suits of the first film. So you have killers with a real distinguishable look that you will not forget. The makeup and prosthetics will astound you, and they do some really good killing as well, and you don't really know what all they're capable of and what really fuels them, and that's just a little bit more terrifying, and it makes them more memorable than the killers in the new Wrong Turn. So round 2, it goes to the original Wrong Turn. Round 3 is about characters or the protagonist of each of the films. Let's flip-flop back to the original film, and these were really just some blasé, two-dimensional characters, if there ever were such a thing. You can't really go too in-depth about any of them, and the film didn't bother to either. None of them really have fleshed out backstories. None of them really have much character development. It's pretty much just a nice cast of recognizable faces that people do like, but those actors aren't really given anything to chew on here, so not much going there. You're essentially supposed to root for them because they happen to be the only people in the movie who aren't evil and bred hillbillies, and that's just kind of weak sauce. Whereas when you look at the new Wrong Turn, you got some pretty interesting stuff going on. You have these people who we should be behind completely, but at times we kind of question. They come off as very human. They do not have it all figured out. While they may have better educations and better resources to them than the mountain community or the townspeople, they're not always in the right. They just like the townspeople. They come in with their own set of preconceptions, prejudices, all that, and their own short sightings. There's some pretty funny stuff here. For one, I went to a liberal arts school. I've been around these types who think, these social justice warriors think they have it all figured out and they understand the plight of everyone else in the world. There's this white douchey guy in this film who is that guy. He keeps trying to talk about the injustices and explain racial injustices to the black guy, and the black guy has to point out multiple times, like, hey, that's not what's going on here. And so it creates a situation where there is humor. You have gay characters here. That's actually enraged a lot of people because they're like, why make them gay if you're not going to do something with it? I think they did do something with it. They don't have to be there and be like super loud about being gay. They're just normal people. They're just men who happen to like another man. And that's it. You can tell they have a loving relationship. That's all that needs to be said. But it also sets up the situation where they go into a town and they expect to be ostracized. They expect that the town may lash out at them, and it sets up tension because they have a preconception of what the townspeople are going to believe in. That's interesting stuff. We have character studies here. People actually have character development. When you look at the main final girl of this story, she starts off as having a very black and white idealistic mindset, but as the movie plays out, she realizes things are very much gray in this world, and you can't always make a 100% correct decision. Sometimes you're going to have to accept a few losses, and you may have to have some challenging ethical dilemmas, and all that is way more interesting than any of the stuff we get from any of the characters in the original Wrong Turn. So round 3 goes to the new Wrong Turn. Round 4 is about cinematography. We will start with the new Wrong Turn. And for this film's budget, it looks pretty beautiful. They do amazing things with lighting. They really make the most of the mountain setting. They give you some beautiful mountain views. They utilize the forest, they utilize the bush, and then they also do nice lighting tricks when you go into the actual settlement and you're into places that are lit by torches. There's all sorts of wonderful use of camera. Then you look at the new Wrong Turn, not a whole lot going on. It's not really a film that looks to impress or like wow you with its artistic merit. It's a pretty straightforward slasher film, and that is that. From what I understand, director Mike P. Nelson has some pretty large ambitions for what he would like to do going forward, and I think when you look at what he made here with this film, it shows that he knows what he's doing behind the camera and what he's doing on set. He knows how to get his vision across. I will link to a video from We Watched a Movie where they actually interviewed the director, Mike P. Nelson, and he had a lot to say about this film, and I think you should check that out. So those guys do great work. Check out We Watched a Movie if you don't know them. Give them a subscribe and listen to Mike P. Nelson talk about this new Wrong Turn and some ideas he has for horror going forward. He talks a lot in that interview about wanting to get his hands on Pumpkinhead, and I would love to see what he would do, because Pumpkinhead has a very unique aesthetic. It's a very unique type of world and atmosphere, and after seeing the type of beauty but also darkness and just intense atmosphere that Mike P. Nelson could get out of Wrong Turn, I would love to see what he could do with Pumpkinhead. But I digress. This round it does go to the new Wrong Turn. So we've arrived to our final round, round 5, and you don't have to be a math major to know by now that we have a victor because it is 3-1, which means no matter what, the new Wrong Turn will be taking more rounds. So this may be more of a formality, but who cares? Let's talk about how I perceive the impact of these films going forward. When you look at the original Wrong Turn, it spawned a lot of sequels. There's something to be said for that, but there's also something to be said about the worth of those sequels. A lot of them were direct to video, and you can find them in the bargain bin at your local Walmart that just don't offer up a whole lot. Like I said, at their core, they're about kills, but those kills got weaker and weaker as time went on. They started relying on really poor CGI. They didn't have the budget to have good CGI, so why do that when you made your bones on practical effects? And the further you stray from that, it's just really sad what happened with this franchise. So the impact there, you can't say too much about it. The impact it had was it gave you a bunch of direct-to-video sequels that are not remembered well, that do not have positive scores online, and really have made this like a D-tier franchise and set things up for a remake that would try to revitalize things and take it in a new direction. And that's what we have with this new Wrong Turn. And I think the impact for this movie will be much, much greater, because I do think that as this movie, its life spans on, it will find more of a following. It will be more appreciated. I mentioned it has a 2.7 out of 5 right now on Letterboxd, but that's actually raised through the weeks. When I first watched this film, I believe it was like a 2.4. So it's on its way up. A lot of the people who are just dyed in the wool Wrong Turn purists were probably giving this really negative reviews because there's no 3-finger and stuff like that in it. But I think over time it'll find its audience and people will see the merit of what Mike P. Nelson has done. I think even the writer Alan McElroy would tell you, he wrote the first film, he wrote this film, he has more pride and investment in this film because it actually says something. It's a very thematic film, and it's a really timely film, even if they did not intend for it to be so. So I think it has a real chance to be way more important going forward. I think it's going to do great things for director Mike P. Nelson's career, and I would be way more interested in seeing sequels predicated on this film than I would the original. So for me, the impact, it has to go to the new Wrong Turn. So there you have it. After 5 rounds, it's a decisive victory for the new Wrong Turn for me. It is 4 rounds to 1, an absolute ass whooping by the new film. I would call this the best Wrong Turn in the entire franchise. Like I said, I would welcome sequels. Be sure to comment below how you feel about each of the films. What is your favorite Wrong Turn film? And also go ahead and click subscribe so you can keep getting more content like this, because I got a lot of cool stuff coming your way and you don't want to miss out. Other than that, you have a fantastic day. I'm Nate from natemareflix saying, that's a wrap.